Well, it is a minute past. I am going to get us started. I'm going to say thank you very much to Rosie and to Matt. And because I am on my phone, Rosie, I cannot see. I know the senator was dealing with another meeting and she was going to hop on. And so I did text her and tell her we were getting ready to start. Today's meeting for everybody is going to be a little different, so I hope you got the changes. There were some mix-ups in some of the addresses and some of the things we were going to present to you. And then some people had to get the materials together, so we just decided to go ahead and run with who was ready. And I also wanted you all to see and meet your new senator in our area. My District 33 encompasses, I think, like about maybe 2 or 3 different senators. But anyway, she won Brenda Gilmore's spot. And, she had a part of our district. And with the way the lines were redrawn, she is actually my senator. So she wanted to talk to you all a little bit about some things that were going to be on the ballot that she thought you needed to be aware of, and to introduce herself so you can see who she is. And other than that, we're going to have some conversation about that PUD that's going to run, where the road is going to run parallel to 24. It goes all the way back over there in the Cane Ridge area. This is not a rezoning, so this was not something that had to come to the council to be voted on. It was something that they chose to change themselves because they were trying to bypass some I think it was I want to say, I'm getting ready to say funeral home graveyards, and I think it was a stream or some different things that were historical values that they wanted to change the way that they were doing their building so they would not disturb those. And because they did that, then they were going to have to make some changes to the way their plans were drawn out. And I wanted them to come to you all so that you could hear about what the changes are. I know in the last meeting where they were here, there were a lot of things brought to the surface. And a lot of those things they did not have anything to do with compared to what they're doing now. And some of them had to do with the commercial areas or some different things that they did not have anything to do with. So one of the things that they're going to do today is to present to you the changes that they have done, why they have done those changes, just to kind of let you know what's going on. This is not something that they're bringing to me that I've got to vote on. So I'm going to start it off with, I can't tell, like I said, I'm on my phone. So I don't know if Senator Oliver is on here yet or not. Senator Oliver, are you on here?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yay, I can. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So I am turning it over to you now. This first part is the senator's show.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you so much, Council Lady Lee. It's a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to be with your constituents. I just wanted to stop by. This will be one of the first of many meetings I want to attend. My plan is to, as your next state senator, is to be present, be visible, to show up, and to listen. And I am running as the Democratic nominee for State Senate in District 19. And for those that didn't catch my name is Charlene Oliver. And District 19 overlaps portions of District 33 in Antioch. And so I want to make sure that I am showing up for Antioch and meeting the needs that you all have. And so I am running to make sure that we have strong families. We work for strong working families. We fight for education, public education at the state level. We're fighting for health care, all of the things that Democrats stand for. For those that don't know me, I am co-founder and co-executive director of the Equity Alliance. And it's a nonprofit that I founded about 6 years ago, where we are fighting on the front lines as a grassroots organization to make sure people are participating in our civic democracy, voting, but also we're advocating for voting rights and standing up against voter suppression in this very voter suppressed state. And so I've been doing a lot of that work over the past 6 years. Some of the things that I've done, I've helped register 91,000 Black and brown voters across the state in 2018. Been doing that ever since. I've also been successful against our Secretary of State, who tries to make it hard for people to vote. I stopped a very horrible law from going into effect that would have criminalized voter registration in our state and made it harder for groups like mine to help register voters. That was in 2019. And in 2020, during the pandemic, I filed a lawsuit that made it easier for people to access an absentee ballot. And so now, due to COVID, anyone in the state, you don't have to have an excuse. Well, you can now use COVID as an excuse to mail in an absentee ballot if you want to vote safely from home. So those are some of the things I want to do and continue to do, is to expand voting access in Tennessee, but also just fight for everyday people in this state. You can find more about my platform on my website, oliverfortnsenate.com. But I want to really make sure that you understand that I'm not the senator yet, and there is one more election that we all must vote in, and that is on November 8th. That is the general election. We have some very, very important races happening on the ballot, not just mine. I do have a Republican opponent in my race, so I'm not taking this for granted. I'm not sitting on the sidelines just expecting you to vote for me. I'm going to earn your vote and work for your vote. And so I'm asking for your vote today for state senate. But also, we've got some great congressional candidates running in District 7, District 6, and District 5. Heidi Campbell, Odessa Kelly, and Randy Cooper all need your vote, as well as gubernatorial candidate Jason Martin. But most importantly, we've got some very important amendments on the ballot that I want to tell you about. And these are from my perspective, no one else's. I use your best judgment, but I am making some recommendations. We have 4 amendments on the ballot in November to change our Constitution, our Tennessee Constitution, starting with Amendment 1. This is the, quote, right to work amendment. And it is a very misleading phrase, because this amendment will essentially enshrine and codify the right to work clause into our Constitution, whereas we already have right to work as a state in our law books. And so it's not something we necessarily need. And it's an attack on our unions, and it's an attack on workers' rights. Whereas in Tennessee, we do not have a minimum wage. We do not have good workplace conditions and workers' rights already. And so this right to work amendment will give all the power to corporations and to quote your bosses, and will make it harder for unions to have the power to negotiate on the job, so that we can have fair wages, livable wages, and things like that. And so I'm asking you to vote no on Amendment 1. Many of those labor unions have endorsed me, such as SEIU Local 205, the AFL-CIO, La Luna. So those labor unions are opposing this amendment, Amendment 1. And people will tell you it's the right to work, but I say it's the right to work for poverty wages. And so we don't want that in Tennessee. We want everybody to be able to lift themselves up, you know, and have upward economic mobility. And this amendment does not do that for Tennesseans. And so I encourage you to vote no on Amendment 1. Amendment 2 is about the powers that the lieutenant governor has when our governor is incapacitated. Right now, there is no guidance in the Tennessee Constitution on that. Right now, it has guidance for when the governor unfortunately dies or is removed from office, but if they are incapacitated temporarily, there is no guidance on who that power goes to. And so it's saying that Lieutenant Governor, who is the Speaker of the Senate, will have temporary powers if the governor should be incapacitated and that cannot perform his or her duties. And so this amendment will update that amendment to allow the lieutenant governor to have those powers temporarily, but not he won't lose his seat as lieutenant governor after he removes, is done being governor. And so I'm asking you to vote yes on that amendment, which is Amendment 2. Moving on to Amendment 3, can you believe that we have still slavery legal in Tennessee? And right now, Amendment 3 abolishes slavery in our Tennessee Constitution. And so I'm asking you to vote yes on Amendment 3, which will ask you, do you want to abolish or end this clause that allows slavery in our Constitution? If you would vote yes on that. And then lastly, Amendment 4 is more of a formality, because this amendment right now in our Constitution, when it was created back in the early 1800s, the creators of the Constitution didn't want clergy and ministers to be part of our state legislature, to keep the separation of church and state. And the Supreme Court actually ruled against that ban. And so now the legislature has to now allow clergy to be able to, they can't enforce the ban. They've nullified it. And essentially this amendment is asking voters, do you want to repeal that ban on clergy? Right now we have 3 current state legislators who are clergy, Representative Harold Love being one of them right here in Nashville. And so it's not an enforced ban that we can't enforce because of the Supreme Court ruling. So essentially we're asking voters to vote yes on Amendment 4 to repeal that ban in our Constitution. So I will leave it at that. Just remember, for those amendments, vote no, yes, yes, yes on all of those. And again, early voting starts next week, October 19th through November 3rd. Please get out and vote. This is, folks are exhausted about voting, but we can't give up on this, because our Republican, colleagues and voters are fired up. They want to ban abortion. They want to make it a national ban. They want to take away our rights. And that's stuff we cannot let happen if we sit on the sidelines. And so I'm asking you to get out and vote for this November 8th election. It's super important. And I ask for your vote for state senate. And I will yield back the floor to Council Lady Lee.
Real quickly, Charlene, can you hear me?
Senator, somebody has a question for
Charlene,
you.
Sure.
My name is Ray Michaels, and I actually live in North Carolina, so I can't vote for you in Tennessee, but I want to acknowledge your energy, your passion, your enthusiasm, and all your hard work. Those are the kind of things that make things happen in this country, and I praise you for that.
Thank you so much, Ray. I really appreciate that. I'm fired up. And
really good. I can tell that. I like it.
Senator, I will tell you, I am going to call you Senator. I'm going to put it out there to put it in the universe so it happens. I will tell you, I went on a General Assembly website, I put it in my zip code, and your name came up.
Wow.
So I'm just saying.
Awesome.
So does anybody have a question for her? I know things have really changed the way they have redrawn some of the lines. So
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a minute if anybody has any questions or anything for her.
Hey, this is
Tawana, if that was you, say that again. You didn't come over very clearly.
that the
He needs to mute something.
Thing else here.
I think we can hear you now, Tawana. Try again.
I wanted to tell Miss Oliver to come by the community meeting on Monday night before elections. It's our monthly community meeting.
Oh, which meeting is this?
Cane Ridge Community Club.
Okay.
It'll be our Thanksgiving meeting, and traditionally candidates come by and introduce themselves and meet people. If you are not already booked, come by about 5:30 that evening.
Is this the Monday, November 7th before election day?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna put my email in the chat if you wouldn't mind to email me that address. But I'm gonna
Yes,
also
ma'am.
put a hold on my calendar. Thank
And
you
if
for
you need any more information, Charlene, just contact me because I can give you Tawana's address, her information, as well as kind of point you to where that's going to be. Did you ever know where, before it moved, did you know where Olive Branch Church was in Antioch?
That sounds familiar, but no, I don't.
Okay, all right, because the community center is right above that. But yeah,
Okay.
if you need to know where that is, I can help you with it. But
Okay.
she's gonna put her stuff, her information up in the chat, I think.
Perfect. Yeah, I just dropped my email and my website, and I'll definitely
Great.
put that on my calendar. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Anybody else have anything for Charlene? I know you were at another function that you ducked out on to be with us, so I really appreciate that. And you know now to be in contact with Rosie because you can get the different meeting times and schedule from her when you want to drop in again. So it was a pleasure having you, dear.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time.
All
Everyone
right.
have a
Bye-bye.
good evening.
Okay, I am going to turn the meeting over now to the gentlemen who are going to talk about the PUD.
Mike, can you hear me, Antoinette, and people at the Cane Ridge community? I'm Ray Michaels. I'm the managing member of the real estate that's a question here today. Let me say where we are. We have done at this point everything that MPC is required of us and complied with everything that MPC requires. And I would ask Mike Hunkler to sort of review that list. Mike, can you screen share that one page that shows all the things that we have done to comply with MPC and also in our development plan?
Okay, so it says I cannot share the content unless the host or the co-host makes you
Allows you
the
to.
presenter. So I don't know if that's possible to do.
Who is the host of the meeting? Is it?
Yeah.
Should be Ms. Rosie. Ms. Rosie, are you able to help? Or Matt can help either.
Yes, we
I
should.
I just made you presenter. You should be able to now.
Okay, see if you can then Mike pull up that page and we'll just talk through those items and then go to an issue that I'd like to talk about after we've gone through that list.
Yeah, it's Matt, it's still not letting me share. Okay, now it looks like it's going to. So it's going to be, let me figure it out here. It's a little bit different than what I'm used to. Let's see if that's it.
It's the narrative that you had, the list.
Yeah, so the question is that, are you seeing, let me back up one page. Is this what you're seeing? Is this a vicinity map? Can everybody see this Century South PUD vicinity map?
No, nothing's coming.
No, we cannot. You're not presenting yet.
Well, let's do this if we can, since we can, unfortunately can't put things up on the screen. I'll certainly be happy to send out a Teams invite to people where I can put everything up on a screen at some point. But let's go through this, Mike. Why don't you just read out that narrative list that you have showing all the things that we have done to comply with MPC's requirements.
Okay, I tried to share again. I'm not sure why it won't share.
Well,
Okay.
we'll just have to read it out.
Okay, well, first of all, Council Lady Lee, thank you for squeezing us in on this meeting. I understood we had about 10 or 15 minutes to cover, and already we've used quite a bit of it. This
Actually, you do have a little more because there was another one that was supposed to be here that it's not on here today. So We don't
Thank
want to
you.
run way over, but yeah, you have a little more.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it won't take too long to go through
Okay.
this, I hope.
And
Go ahead, Mike.
and I believe this will be our third meeting with some of the neighbors. So hopefully some of this is just a review, but we actually made the submittal to the Planning Commission on June the 16th. And we've worked through the comments from staff. And really the primary reason for the revision to the PUD are environmental issues, which are stream buffers, slopes, and the cemetery
And wetlands.
and wetlands. Thank you, sir. And the driving project on this is a multifamily project that can pay for and build the road all the way from Old Hickory Boulevard to our northern property line. It didn't go all the way to Old Franklin. The rest of the PUD had to be adjusted, but the only project that's actually going forward that we have details and a developer is the multifamily. So the rest are basically placeholders. So in the package that was sent out, I know some people got the package, it's going to focus on the multifamily. And that's really what we're here to talk about is the multifamily that and the impacts that we've tried to avoid to the environmental concerns, environmental issues that in 20 years ago, you could culvert a stream. You can't do that anymore in Metro. So we've got the streams confirmed and the buffers are respected. We now know where the wetlands are, and we had to adjust the boulevard to avoid the disturbance. We have completed the endangered species and the habitat studied. The 5-lane boulevard will be extended the entire length of our parcel, all the way to Old Hickory Boulevard. There's no additional entitlements that we're requesting, either density, use, square footage. The traffic study's been complete and the offsite improvements are confirmed pending different development triggers. And those are very detailed in the approved traffic study. We've accounted for the significant tree that's near I-24. The cemetery limits have now been confirmed by Metro Historical Commission, and we've updated the plan. It was just a slight revision on the plan. And once again, the 300 unit apartment site is the first phase. Really the biggest issue that we're dealing with, and we're trying to stay within the whole theme of not trying to encroach on the environment any more than we have to.
Yeah, Mike, let me add to that. Let me just for a second, I didn't mean to interrupt, but when we met the last time with Twana and a number of these people in this group, their biggest concern was mass grading, eliminating trees, blasting, and they've seen some examples of that further to the north. So we came back and we said, and totally our company has been committed for years to what we call best development practices. And what was the way to limit the amount of land that was graded, and what was a way to eliminate taking down more trees than necessary, but yet still create a project that we're entitled to. And the issue is the Metro Planning Commission says that we have to develop a plan that entails buildings that are 2-story, 3-story buildings, 2 in the front, 3 in the rear. And we can do that, but here's the consequences of it. We clear more land, we take out more trees, and it's not a good development practice plan. So what we've said, and we think we're entitled to do it because there's nothing that in my mind that says we can't, and we've engaged council to look at it, is we're doing a 3-4 plan, which is 3 stories in the front, 4 down the back slopes. And that plan clears about 5 less acres. It puts 4 less buildings on the ground and clears less trees. And we think it's environmentally a friendlier plan. And we're coming back to you for your opinion on it. We can go either way, but personally, we think the way to go, if you support it, is to go for the 3-story, 4-story and the 4-story comes back down the slope. And I think you have it up on the plan right now. Can people see it now? I can see it.
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah. So that's the plan. Now show them the 2-3 plan. The 2-3. No, 2-3. See, there you come. You're clearing about 5 more acres of land, and you're putting 4 more buildings on the ground. So therefore, you're taking out more trees and doing things that we think are not as beneficial for best development practice. Again, I remind you, we can go either way, but we wanted to come back to the Cane Ridge community and let them tell us what they prefer. We think our recommendation is the 3-4 plan for the reasons I've just described. And that's we had a subsequent meeting with a previous meeting with Councilman Lee to go over those issues, and she asked us to present them to you. Twana, you're breaking up.
You kind of went out a little bit.
Go ahead, Twana.
See if you can hear me more clearly.
That's a little better. You got some feedback on your system. Do you have a phone on as well as the computer?
No, I only have one thing on.
Okay, well that's better. You're clear there. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So what is the timeline, please? When is this next period of approval, and what is the next step?
The next step is we've answered all the questions for MPC, as Mike Hunkler previously commented. And all we're prepared to do is go back, and we would prefer to do a 3-4 split plan as opposed to the 2-3 for the reasons. If we do the 2-3, we can go back tomorrow. I mean, whenever the next submittal is in November. Submittal in October, and you go into November. Mike.
Mike, you're muted.
I see there. I had to find my mute button disappeared. We would like to resubmit next week for November 10th Planning Commission meeting.
And
okay, therein lies my first sticking point. I think we first talked back in January, and then I got a really short response in, I think it was May, with some of the changes that we had asked for. And now you're talking about what, 2.5 weeks away. And initially there was only going to be 10 minutes tonight to present this. I asked y'all about doing an actual meeting that we could get neighbors and everyone back to. I think the community deserves more than 2.5 weeks to review this. And I'm not opposed to the direction you're taking it. I just think that if we're going to honor the community's right to have a voice in the Planning Commission meeting, then they need an appropriate amount of time to review this. We had a whole slew of questions early on, and the other thing that appears to be the case in what you most recently sent out is that a lot of those concerns aren't addressed in writing. I think they're addressed in spirit, but not specifically in writing.
Such as.
Well, let me get the list up. Stand by just a second, please. Okay, let's see. All right, you can still hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. So we wanted the specific trees identified that were going to be protected. We wanted information about how the road was going to connect to Old Hickory Boulevard, especially with
Wait a minute. Wait,
respect to.
let's take one at a time. Specific trees. The trees that are going to be protected is everything that's outside the footprints of the 3-4 plan. If we do the 2-3 plan, then it's going to be everything outside the footprint of the 2-3 plan, which takes on more trees, takes out more trees, and then I would like to see go away, and I would hope that you would like to see not go away. So I can send you an aerial photograph because the entire property is covered with trees.
Yeah, I know that's part of the problem. That's why I say I think we need a meeting that allows time for more detail, because the list of things that people ask about was quite large. And if I'm going to be, if you're going to stop when I read the first item and try
Well,
to
I just
delve
like
into
to
that.
address it. No, Twan, I wanted to try to address it, and that was one of the reasons.
I understand. And
Okay.
I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I'm just trying to point out that it's been since May, and I think the community deserves to sit down and hear this in more detail and talk through these things.
Twana, again, I'd like to at least before we have a meeting go over what you say and specific on trees, the connection to Old Hickory Boulevard. Let's you were starting on that. That has been designed, correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, in accordance with Metropolitan Planning Commission and Nashville Department of Transportation. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir. What you said when you ran through the quick list, that it was going to be a 5-lane boulevard for the entire length of y'all's particular parcel,
Correct.
and that there would be off-site improvements confirmed and that would be triggered by certain events, which we have learned in the past sometimes means that improvements won't occur for 10 to 15 years down the road. So, and a nearby example of that is the improvements on Burkett at Old Hickory. Those literally spanned a 15-year time period. And if I recall, it involved 13 different contributions from different developers, and the community has learned that we need to kind of specifically know what's going on, because in the meantime, we're the ones that deal with the traffic.
Mike, my understanding, you correct me if I'm wrong, we're going to traffic signalize the intersection. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's a trigger for the traffic signal. Yes.
We're also going to have some A-cell, D-cell lanes that adjoin our property.
What's the trigger?
It's going to be part of our development.
I've got a 72 page traffic study I can share with you. It's Twana, it's been.
Make sure I understand you right. The trigger, hang on. Hold on, sir. The trigger,
okay, I'm hearing 3 people talk at one time. So I'm going to ask us to kind of be careful to make sure that only one person is talking at a time, please.
Yes, ma'am. So the triggers, as I understand them in the past, were when certain thresholds got met by developments, they would then be required to do certain improvements. Mike, can you say what the trigger is for the signal?
I can't remember the specific. It has to do with a certain number of traffic generated, and the apartments generate a certain amount, then retail generates a certain amount, then the commercial office generates. I can't necessarily recite those and off the top of my head.
Mike, let me cut to the chase though. We're committed in this first phase of the apartments is to signalize Old Hickory Boulevard interchange and do A-cell, D-cell lanes on our side of the property that we control. So it'll be a commitment by the developer. They can write it into the PUD document. I mean, into the approval. But
that's exactly the kind of thing we would like to see spelled out, and that's a great example of why I'm saying we need to have a meeting where this info is shared ahead of time so people can look at it, and then those kind of commitments can go in there. and there's no way that can happen by November 10th.
Tawana, that could be written in the morning.
Let me
It's
ask
part
a
of
question.
resubmission.
Excuse me, let me ask a question. Tawana, those particular things that you were talking about, did you have them listed out that we could give to them so that they could, because I thought we had done this or asked this before, so that they could specifically address each one to let you know, and if we could even send it out to everybody.
Yes, ma'am. This is
Councilperson Lee, if I
from
can speak
the-
for a second.
We did that.
We
I
did
don't-
get we got a full list and answered the entire list at one time. I can go back and pull that up, but I spent quite a bit of time trying to answer what we knew versus what's left now. And the main issue was completing the traffic study. Now we can provide the traffic study if that's what's requested. But I do recall answering a very detailed list
You did.
back in May. Okay.
Correct.
Was
Yeah,
that, was that list sent out to everybody? Do you know? Tawana, did you receive the answers to that? Was that sent out?
Yeah, it was a pretty
Okay.
broad answer. It didn't get into the specifics that we had asked about earlier. And I guess we have different visions here. We were envisioning getting a detailed response to very specific aspects, and it's things we've gotten burned on in the community in the past. And I think they're not understanding how much detail we were asking for before it goes to planning for the approval.
I think there's two steps here. You're missing a step. First of all, this is just the MPC PUD revision. You still then have to have a development plan. Is that not correct, Mike? Where some of these
Correct.
questions get answered.
Yeah,
Because
We don't get to be
until they do
involved
more
in that.
engineering. Pardon me?
We don't, the only time the community has a right to be involved is before it goes for the planning commission approval. After that, y'all could tell us that we were going to be involved, but you aren't obligated to have us involved. And that's why we want things in writing before it goes to the planning commission. Does that make sense?
Well, I hear you. When we made those, when we answered your questions back in May, we never got a response as to what you wanted in writing. And I think we have operated in great faith in doing things that you've asked us to do. And we've done everything that MPC's asked us to do. I just don't understand the difficulty here of proceeding with the commitments we made to cut less trees, do less grading, to traffic signalize Old Hickory Boulevard, to do A-cell, D-cell lanes, to extend the road all the way from Old Hickory Boulevard to the property to the north. I don't, and you know, we've got these entitlements. We're not trying to increase them. We're not trying to change them. We're trying to be a responsible developer, and we were dealing with environmental issues that any good quality developer should deal with. Otherwise, I'm not sure what else we could do.
Tawana, give me some of the specifics because I don't know. So give me a couple of the specific things that you had put on there that you felt wasn't answered, because since we have other people on the phone, it might be good to hear.
I have the list of questions and my answers. I mean, for example, she said protect and improve the Pasquite, and forgive me if I mispronounce it, Pasquite Cemetery. We've had professionals out there as well as the Historical Society. They have a full report on and surveyed on the cemetery area. Protect water conveyances and streams with greater undisturbed buffers. That's what we're trying to portray right now. We've not only protected the buffers, we've gone through the Army Corps, and we have, as Ray is trying to portray, we're actually asking that we want this particular plan to eliminate any crossing of any streams or buffers. Protect large oak and other trees. We will protect the trees required as possible to keep natural beauty. That includes the 3-4 split building so that we don't have to go across the stream and cut more trees.
And we have less
if-
building footprints
So,
too.
so that's just an example of three things. If you would like me to update these answers, I'd be happy to do that. I assume, Juan, I assume you're talking about your list of, it's probably about 30 or so interests. It was a full
Yes,
list of about, yeah, okay. Well, instead of debating it right here, I'd be happy to revise those answers if we've got some revisions to that based on our
Yeah,
current
and
plan.
I'm not trying to get into debating at all. That
No,
really
no, I
is
understand.
not the point. I don't think y'all understand how specific we want to see things in writing, because it doesn't work out well for the community when we don't get specifics in writing. And I do want to note one thing here that's probably caused some trouble that is totally not y'all's fault, and that is that I was gone from August 14th until September 15th. So I
That's
did
correct.
miss out on some stuff there.
Yeah, we did try
So
to
I
get,
just,
we did try to get with you, and I think you were out somewhere ill or something, but we did try to
so
get together
yes,
with you in August.
yeah, I had COVID and my mom died and all
Yeah.
kinds of things. So I want to
And
recognize that part of it was certainly not y'all's
yeah,
issue at
and
all.
I'm sorry to hear all that. And again, Tawana, I think the answer here is let's let Robert update his answers. We're willing to put what just said in writing about the Old Hickory signalization, the extension of the road, and the A-cell, D-cell lanes, which I think is really important to the community. And with your support, we'll cut less trees and clear less land if we're able to go to the 3-4 split. If Metro pushes us to the 2-3 split, which they're trying to do, then we think that's environmentally and is not best practices development. But it's your
Yeah,
call.
I hear what you're saying. It's kind of an inappropriate twist of responsibility to try to
Sure.
say that, that's on me.
Oh, I'm not trying to put it
So
on you. I'm just trying to get your support.
let's,
Because I think
yeah,
if you supported
I
a
hear
better
you.
plan, MPC would go along with it, according to our legal
I
counsel.
hear you on that. I'd still maintain we need to have a dedicated meeting because we're already at 6:45. That intersection is really, really important to the community. We asked some
Amen.
questions previously about how folks would come off of I-24 and immediately be faced with another traffic signal and how all that was working. We even asked about whether it could be moved further away. So we really were looking for some real specifics. You may remember we asked how you would keep this from being a preferred cut through from I-24 off at Old Franklin, zip down the new roadway and back out to Old Hickory Boulevard. I mean, there were a lot of specific things that we were asking. So,
Tawana, may I
Tawana,
support you in that idea?
Tawana, one of the difficulties too is the road, the 5-lane road, was dictated to us by Metro Planning Commission and Metro Council. So all we're trying to do is comply with that road requirement.
We can't stop that.
Yeah,
no,
we can't.
They won't let
we
us.
understand that, but we also know from experience now that we can together support things like a roundabout halfway down that road that forces everyone to slow down. So there are still some things we need to cover, and somebody tried to speak up while we were talking just then, and I'm sorry I didn't
It
even
was
catch
John
who that
Taylor.
was.
It's John Taylor.
Hey
Tawana,
John,
can you hear
what?
me? Yeah, I
Yeah,
want to
what?
support. I wanted to support you on this, Tawana. You're exactly right. I have a little bit of dog in the fight because I live on this new road that we're talking about. I live on the north end of this new road at the old Franklin Road intersection. And I've had nothing but trouble with the developers that are doing this new road. So we're having trouble at one end, and it's a different developer from the other end, and there's going to be no continuity if we're not careful. We need to have a meeting before the planning commission approval. That's
John,
what I vote. And I live on this road.
What is the trouble you're encountering with them? Because it's not us.
Well, it's complicated. At my end, I have a right-of-way issue, but TVA, Metro, they all have a right-of-way at the same intersection. But what I'm saying is, it's a complicated situation when one end of the road is talking one thing and the other end of the road doesn't know what's going on. So we need to know what the whole road's going to look like. And all of those concerns you have, Tawana, absolutely correct. We have to make the decision before the planning commission approval.
John,
So
one of the
up.
things on that road, the road was a requirement of every parcel in the PUD. So that road should be consistent all the way through.
Well, it's 2 lanes down at my end.
I
I
understand.
know you're right. You're right, Ray. It's supposed to be 5 lanes, but it's 2 lanes at my end right now.
And
So-
we're willing to do what Metro Council required us to do. I think that's something that you need to take up with Metro Council or planning, runs into those people if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Well, we're all in this together. You know, the community club that you're talking about, Tawana, she's doing a good job of looking out for our interests. We've been stung in the past. It isn't you, Ray. It's other people who have come before you. So that's what we're dealing with. You would do the same if it was on your road, as I'm doing now.
Listen, let me say this. I've been involved in this business for 50 years, and I really do try to consider the community first, because without the community support, you don't end up having a good development. What we've tried to listen to was everything you asked of us, and we've tried to address it where we think it's best development practices on what we can control through our portion of the property. And I don't know where and I'm willing for y'all to point out where we're erred from that, so that if there's a way to correct it, provided we meet the requirement of Metro Council, we'll do that.
Ray, a week ago or whenever the notice came out about this meeting tonight, and it was, y'all said there was going to be 10 minutes. That's why I was trying to tell you then we needed to have a bigger meeting. Could we schedule a time that we do a meeting before the planning commission? Because if questions aren't answered, that leaves people knowing that their only power is to go down there and oppose. It's much better to work things out ahead. And in this instance, it's mostly about getting more questions answered and getting timelines. Getting things specified in writing in a way that the community knows they're protected. And I'll go back to that nearby intersection of Burkett at Old Hickory. That thing was completed years later than promised. And even Councilwoman Lee, she kept being told, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. But it was because of the trigger points that were too late in developments nearby. They didn't have to make those contributions until way later than what it needed to be done in order to protect the community. So that's the kind of thing we've learned.
Yeah, and again, I thought again, Tawana, here's what I then suggest you do, please, if you would. Relist the questions that you need us answered so we can address them.
I can't do that because that's going to require me going through the plan on my own, and it's not a Tawana thing; it's a community thing.
Well,
Can we just schedule a meeting?
Let me send the original list.
Excuse me, let me jump in, since we don't have that much more time on here, and there may be some other people that wanted to jump in. And I also saw Mr. John Honeysucker's name come across, so I don't know if he wanted to say anything about the water part. But let me say this. Why don't, because you all have the list, why don't you go back through and try to be a little more specific about the answers? And then when there are things that you cannot do because that's not under your
control.
I don't know, yeah, exactly, because it has to do with somebody else and it's nothing you can do, then make sure you put that on there so we won't be looking at that. And then if you get those back to Rosie, one thing we can do as soon as you get that out is to send it out to everybody in the database. And that will cover also the people on here so that they can see that. And then maybe we can get more specifics. Because from what I'm hearing from this, there's a lot of, I'm not hearing really a lot of specifics from Tawana so that you can specifically answer it. And it's because I don't have those things in front of me that I'm looking, that I would be looking at that you all have. So I understand that. So if we can do that. Now, if you all want to have another meeting, you would go through the same process that you did with this one, to set it up with Rosie to see what she could set up, and we could have another community meeting. If you all are meeting with one or two folks in the community, your own selves to talk about different questions or whatever, that's totally up to you. And you can do that. But let's do that other. And then hopefully people who are on here, when you get that, you get those specifics, if you still have questions or suggestions, then send that in too. So then we can put it all together with the questions and see what goes to what answer.
Yeah, and Councilman Lee, I think you also made in the beginning, and we certainly will continue to work with the community. But this is not a rezoning. We have the entitlements. We're complying with what Metro is requesting us to do. And on top of that, we're trying to do things that the community has asked us to do. And being the good steward, we think we've really followed that path. And we would like to move this forward because we've been talking on this for about 6 months.
Mr. Michaels, if we could schedule a meeting around October 27th, just a small group, and run through some of this, we could knock out a lot in a short period of time. We'd need digital.
You two have your information in the chat room. I'm going to let you all work on that, because if that's what you want to do, to meet with a couple of people that have asked those questions, that's fine. But I would like for you, like I asked, to go ahead, if you were going to redo and make more specific those other issues that you still have a copy of, so we can send it out to everybody. And make sure that it is well known when you answer those, the things that you don't have control about, or
Sure.
that you have to do and that you can't change. And so I'm going to, with that said, I'm going to ask if there are other people that have not had a chance to talk, that want to give a little input or give a comment.
Hey, Councilwoman Lee, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hey, yeah, I just wanted to just jump in and just say that, again, I understand the back and forth dialogue between developer and Tawana, but I think what she was trying to say, and from a community standpoint, is that the list that she provided was more of a standard. And I think what she's looking to do is actually get more deeper into what the community is looking for. So I think instead of Tawana continuing to provide the full comprehensive list, I think it would be more warranted to speak with those in the community to gather that feedback, so that it's not, once Tawana provide her list, you're still having those back and forth conversations with people in the community. So I would just ask if there's more collaborative in reference to what are we actually asking the development team to do.
And I totally understood what she was saying, but thank you for that clarification, Mr. White. But I do think that helping, now that they have heard that, giving that specific answer so that we can get it to everybody and they can see that, not just whatever small group that you all are going to get together. And I will leave that up to the developers that are on here to reach out to each other, because you have Tawana's information. If you want to do that and have that small conversation, then that's fine. But I would like to get the other out to everybody that's on here, because they may have some more questions about different things, or they may have questions about things that that aren't under your purview, that you don't have anything to do with. So no need of doing that. So I still would like that done. Anybody else with a specific question that might help before we get off, so that they can add that to what they have?
I would just once more like to ask that we go ahead and schedule October 27th, so everybody here knows the date, and let's just schedule a Zoom call.
If you are wanting to schedule something with them, Tawana, I would say reach out to them. I don't have Rosie's schedule here. I don't know what I have on the 27th, so I'm not calling another big community meeting for the 27th. I will look and see if there is something that we can do on that. But what it sounded like was you all needed some conversation amongst the smaller group. And if it
I
works
agree.
that we can, and if it works that we can have another one, a major one, then it'll have to have some conversation like we started here, instead of being general about, well, I can't do this and talking in generalizations. It'll have to be specifically so that they can answer the question one at a time or whatever, and go over what people need to hear.
Agreed. Ray and Mike, would October 27th work for y'all?
About what time? Talk about in the evening again, 6 o'clock.
Lunchtime, evening, whatever.
I'd rather do lunchtime. I'm an hour time difference than you, and my wife's already about to fuss at me because I'm supposed to sit down at dinner at 7 o'clock.
Well,
10,
and I
10
would
a.m.
rather, Tawana, I know you're trying to set this up here because I don't want it to look like it's one of our major ones, since you all are working together. So I would rather you all email back and forth, maybe send an invite or something, that you all schedule that. And then those that want to be a part of that can go ahead and be a part of that.
Yeah, and Tawana, if you've got my email address, if you would send me everybody you want on that, I'll send y'all a Microsoft Teams invite. If you have that access, that way we can pull different slides up and talk through them and any specific issues. Does that work?
Yeah, so long as that can be recorded so we can share it if anybody asks.
Yeah, and that's fine. I mean, you
Sure.
recorded. I think you recorded the last one, and I think if you do go back on the recording, those are the things you were concerned about, was clearing too much land and cutting down more trees than we needed to, and that's why we came back to you with this idea rather than what Metro
Into the slope.
Yeah, slope and pushing us to. So we did listen to that, and that's the only reason we're really back talking at this point.
Is there anybody else who hasn't had a response, like to put their 2 cents in or say something?
Hey, this is Therese Gooch. I think we're standing in agreement with the comments made by Tawana and John and Dearia. So we're looking forward to that next meeting. Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else that wanted to be heard to say or give a
Billy had his
comment
hand
or
raised.
questions?
Billy, you had your hand raised.
Hey, Billy.
Didn't he have his hand raised? Is he on mute? Well,
I think we're good, Ray.
all right.
Now, I do think, just to let you all know, and you all schedule your meeting whenever you want to, but just to let you know, I think the planning committee meets at 4 o'clock on that day that you are trying to schedule one. So that's just a FYI. All right. Well, it is 7:59. I appreciate those that were on here. And Mike, your information or whatever for the email, if anybody else wants to send something to you, somebody put that in the chat, or contact information for one of you, so that if anybody is looking and they want to send something to you or a question or whatever, then they can look in the chat and get that.
Council
And
Lee, is it okay if I give
yes,
a beautification update?
if you can do what? I'm sorry.
Give,
Yes, please, please, please. Oh, my wonderful beautification commissioner. I'm
Well,
so sorry.
it's okay if we then depart. I've got to go.
If you have your contact information over on the side, yes. And I know you have to go to dinner, so Ray, yes. And my commissioner.
Yeah, I'm in the email. I can be contacted. No problem.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
We'll set this up.
We take care.
I'm turning it over to you now, sir.
Okay, so we have 3 cleanups for the fall season planned. October 15th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. there will be a community cleanup. That same day from 11:30 to 1:30, we're having our annual daffodil planting. This will be hosted by the Long Hunter Chase Adopt a Street Group. that covers Mount View Road from Smith Spring Road to True Lane. On October 29th, 2020, from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., we'll be having a community cleanup on Hamilton Church Road from Murfreesboro Pike to Hamilton Lane. I need everyone to save the date for November 5th. That will be our big District 33 bulk item drop-off. The location is to be determined. We're still working on that. Our anticipated location is Publix, but it's still in the works. But everyone, please save the date. Also, we have the beautification project fund. NDOT has given us an allocated funds of $3,000. I haven't received any project proposals.
Oh, wow.
Those funds are, we have until May of next year to use those funds. That's all I have for you, Council Lady Lee.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, it was just brought to my attention that as I was reading the time, I said seven something, and now I'm getting ready to say 8:02. That's because I'm in the Eastern time right now, so I looked at that incorrectly. Mr. Commissioner, if you could send those to me so that I can screenshot it, and I will put it on my Facebook page as well, so that we will have that. So I want to thank everybody very much. You heard what our beautification commissioner is doing. He's doing wonderful things being involved. Thank you so very much. And if you have a particular area or neighborhood that really needs attention, that you want to give to him, please shoot him an email and give him that information so that he can add that to some things.
Or you can text me, 615-863-1303.
Would you say that again, please?
615-863-1303.
Thank you so much. Everybody, have a
Thank you, Council Lady.
have a great night, everybody.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.